Okay. Um, Pretty much since the videos are doing way too long, and it's just a lot of boring crap to look through while I try to figure out what kind of design I want to do, even though I've made this character too many times already. Uh, my premises behind this whole thing is the fact that I've been looking for a proper way to have a character workflow that was not an overbearing amount of work. Because for my characters, I want face morphs. I want lip syncing. I want just, being able to do emotions and have all those morphs for all my characters. And I've been trying to make a master character that has all the abilities of face morphs and things like that. Various things go wrong without with throughout the whole process. Characters that I just didn't like that I wanted to be able to make more changes to. Um, and I've been end up creating my characters over and over again with a little bit better, with a little bit of this, and then like even with the last one I made, it's like I made him, I liked it, but I would still have to go back or try to figure out how to break the face apart to be able to have either a bone rigging system for the face to be able to do emotions, and then there's trying to make the character talk easier and things like that, and it's just months and months of wasted time and just me being stuck on character development, and it was just frustrating. So that's when I found this program. And even though it, for you to fully utilize it, it takes pretty much the same cost if I wanted to use DAZ and pay for their indie license. It's pretty much the same cost of getting this whole complete package. Because at least with this, I get the ability, same ability with DAZ, to be able to use a base mesh, to add morphs to it, to be able to sculpt that, make it my own. But on top of that, I have the ability to be able to bring that back in here as a morph and make clothing for it to where all those morphs are automatically adapted to the clothing. And that made this program a lot more intuitive and a lot more adaptive to what I'm trying to do. And especially with the iClone 7, they have automatic built-in lip sync for animations. They have automatic expressions for emotions and things like that when you export your character in Exchange, which give me all these features and morphs that I need for every single one of my characters automatically in this engine, however they have it set up right now. My problem was is I had to learn it, and while I was going through it and learning it and using it, I was trying to record it. So instead of doing that, I'm just going to go through an overview of everything I had to do and everything that I pretty much messed up because I didn't fully understand the extent of their tutorials to be able to get where I am right now. Let me actually make sure I'm streaming properly. Otherwise, I might be talking and there's nothing going on. Okay, yeah, it's going through right now. Okay, so what I have here is I start with iClone pretty much. What I started with was pretty much just base mail. So you drop him in, it loads the data. And what I did was pretty much I removed all the clothing, everything that was in here that I didn't need. And I tried to get him to be shaped like the character that I've already created 3 million times. Just as doing a side-by-side comparison. And I can come in here and pick part of the, kind of like Sims, I guess. It seems like they have this ability in it now to where you can come in here, stretch the arms out, make them shorter, Made different parts of the head bigger just by clicking and dragging. And I just got something that was similar to my character in general. Once I got that, I pretty much came through, exported incorrectly, because at first I exported the FBX character with clothing, and that's not what I'm supposed to actually use for sculpting and ZBrush or anything like that. You actually have to export out a nude character, because that gives you the proper polygons that you can use, sculpt, and bring in your actual morph data into this program. Otherwise, if you do the FBX, it's kind of like a optimized mesh with the FBX that has tries everywhere, and it's just impossible to use for sculpting because you get all kinds of artifacts and incorrectness. If I can turn this off. And pretty much when I brought it in here, I sculpted on it. I don't have any of my history, but so I sculpted on it. I added in the details for the muscles and everything I wanted. I actually did mess up the eyes because when I was smoothing the face, I moved the eyebrows away from the eyes. And I think in the videos that I recorded, I showed that, but I eventually went back and re-exported my character after I brought him in as a morph, and then corrected that back in ZBrush and put him back in as a newly updated morph for IClone. So after I sculpted and everything, all you have to do is just bring that character OBJ in back as a actual character morph and create it as a morph slider. And if you come in here and select your OBJ, and then everything has a key file with it anytime you export the OBJ, and that pretty much just tells the system how you exported it out, and it keeps track of all the vert information, so that way when you bring it in, it can create a new dial over in a character morph for your character type. So if you go under full body or in the actual main actor list, I can still have my morph in here for Tori, of which if I reset everything back to base and I scale him in, you get the morphs that pretty much creates him. And of course these textures are hideous. So with the textures, I did all my texturing over in Substance Painter. Came through, painted up the textures, added in all my projection painting for the UV, for the tattoos and things like that. Came through and added in his back scars and stuff like that. Pretty much just got everything the way I needed to look. One thing about this, I messed this section up as well, because when I did this at first, I just had the character and I didn't have any of the clothing, anything like that, and I tried to do my other flow of doing the character later outside of this, but I ended up having to bring everything into iClone, exporting it back out, getting a different OBJ file with a different key, and just had to keep making different exports to make sure that everything was correct. So I ended up with multiple meshes. So once you actually export out that original OBJ and you bring it back in with your morphs, if you export just only one more FBX and one more OBJ after that, then that's the only thing you have to use for going forward after this. And even bringing clothes in here, I wouldn't bring back any of this back into Substance until after you've done the re-rigging with the skin weights or doing a skin wrap to be able to get your regular armature from your FBX exporter to match up and bake your skinning weights into your clothing. And I'm actually going too far ahead of myself. So if I just roll it back a little bit, pretty much after I did my skin, I brought them back in. I added all the textures and everything I needed to do back into here to where I just had a base character. No, I don't want to save. And as I said before, with the base character, I had no clothing or anything like that. So from here, I had to just re-export the OBJ and the FBX because you need both of those to be able to do this process. Inside of Marvel's Designer, I bring in the OBJ file, which gives me, everything I need to properly put clothing on and bind it to the character model. I went from there to ZBrush to be able to bring in the actual character and the clothing to make sure that everything lined up correctly with the body and all that good stuff. And then from here, this is where I made a lot of mistakes, and this is where I just did not record any of it. Once you get your once you get your clothing in here shaped, UV'd and everything like that, what you have to do is go to whatever authoring program you have and bring over just the clothes, not this character base, but just the clothes. Bring in the FBX that you exported for clothing, and that FBX has the skeleton in there that you want to be able to bind your character to. And that skeleton has to be the same skeleton that you're using in your IClone environment. So when you bring that skeleton in, you can use, I've seen several examples that they had on their tutorial sections for doing it in Blender, doing it in Maya, and 3D Studio Max already has a skin weight feature that I already knew about, so I didn't even have to look up a tutorial for that. But all you need to do is just bring in your character, bring in your clothing, make sure it lines up with your character that you imported with the FBX, skin it, do a copy weight, and then export that FBX character with your clothing, and then import it into this program using clothing and hair. And then what it'll do is it'll use that FBX along with the key that it exports when you export your character, and then it'll try to bring in, if I can show this, it'll try to bring in all your clothing that you had for that, and you can assign it to the different parts to be hair if it's hair, clothing if it's clothing, etc. And they use layers, kind of like Marvelous Designer has layers, to be able to make sure that clothing stay on the proper mesh height when they're blending them together onto your character. And then pretty much once you put them on your character, you can save them into your library. This happened because I hit cancel, and for some reason if you hit cancel, it just completely closes out your character. But once you have everything in here, before you do texturing, before any of that, you can save your clothing out in this custom tab to make sure that you at least preserve that data that you just brought in. So pretty much from here, I had no textures on anything but my body, and everything saved in here. So then once again, I had to export a FBX file to be able to import that into Substance and get my proper UVs for the UV and material information for the character and the clothing. And from here, I was able to save out the textures to bring back into here and apply them to my character. And when you do that, you have to make sure that all your textures are definitely PBR and not traditional. Otherwise, you get weird shading effects and things like that. And pretty much within like a small time of a day, I got to this point to where I was able to actually play around with my character, figure out that even though the original ZBrush morph that I made I didn't really like, but because I still didn't like it, I was still able to come back here, and even on top of my original morph for the character, I could come in and still change the jaw, change the lips, add more, body mass, to the character to be able to like just to excuse me, just to exaggerate just more elements of what I've already created, which gives me so much flexibility in my opinion that than I could get anywhere else, especially for the price. And then still be able to, you know, go further, make changes, store my character information as a custom character set in here, and still be able to even bring in, like, if I, for some reason I wanted to, just, you know, drop a bra on my character because I felt like it, and it will still work with everything that I have here, everything that I need to have in general, and then take this over to my next step in general is to take it over to the animation flow and try out their animation flow for being able to make idle animations. And from what I've seen, since it supports on export of your FBX, since it supports the Unreal Rig, anything that I export from here should automatically have the IK bones, the root bones, and everything that I would need for it to work in Unreal with the actual existing Unreal Rig model. So that's another big benefit, in my opinion, for this. And hopefully once I get past this, I'll do another video showing the little animations that I did, the bringing all that over into the engine, and having my full character in here with the simplest steps possible, and hopefully showing off the emotions and things like that that you can bring over with the morphs from this application. If anybody else has any more questions about it in general, just drop me a line and I'll see what I can answer or whatever. I'm not really looking at chat, so if there's anyone there, sorry. I'm just tired. It's like 12. So, I'm going to just stop this here. Have a good day. Hope it helps some. Peace.